Hello again, I'm still Ben. Back to the hat to see what our topic is today. There's fewer and fewer in here now, so it's kind of harder to shake them up as easily. Oh, finally, the UN. The UN. I've been waiting for this one, really. The UN is a pretty useless organization currently. It's gone the way of the previous League of Nations because mostly member nations who are a problem refuse to cede any of its national authority to the UN in order to have any sort of enforcement ability. Without any sort of enforcement, all they are is a political club getting together and signing things and talking at each other. They're not really affecting enough the way they could. Now, China has recently proposed not so much a global governance system, because people get real scared about that, like one world order sort of thing, which, sidebar, you guys act like you're so scared of some sort of one world government, and yet you don't recognize the fact that this group of internationally rich billionaires at the very top of wealth across the world don't consider themselves any part of country or, under any sort of laws. They consider themselves all above that, and they're the ones puppeting strings all the way down. Like, that's happening. The one world government thing's happening already. It's just rich people who have no accountability because we don't have any governments that are, that have the backbone to actually enforce it on them. Okay, back off the tangent, back to the normal topic here. So as China's proposed more of a, sort of an oversight organization to end imperialist bullying on a global scale, that's really what the UN should be. I think we've got that organization already. I think the issue is that, certainly between the states with veto power, we could form the Spider-Man meme of the US, Russia, and China pointing at each other going, wow, horrible war criminals, human rights abuses. Like, yeah, obviously we could do that. But, we do need to find a way to work together in order to make the UN an effective organization. When the United States and Israel are the only places that vote against food being a human right, everybody should understand that we're the bad guys here right now. Okay, and everybody who isn't a white man understands that we've always been the bad guys, right? So, hard pill to swallow for some of you, for sure, but, get it down there. You got to do it. In terms of my policy for the UN, I'm hesitant to tell everybody this idea, except for the fact that our current Greenland problem with this administration is potentially ruining one of the future policies and plans that I would have had, or someone, it could be anybody. It doesn't have to be me in charge of anything, just anybody listening to these ideas who wants to put some of them in place, because the EU has threatened that if the United States moves forward with trying to take Greenland, then the EU is going to seize every military base, every U.S. military base in Europe. And the part that's so annoying with this spray-tanned piece of shit is that everybody seizing the bases in their country is what should happen. Okay, if you had, for instance, a commander-in-chief willing to dismember and truly destroy the American imperialist gun pointed at the rest of the world and end this forever war machine, then all you would have to do, you would just have to have one person, whoever it is, just one president as commander-in-chief would be able to do exactly this, which is what I think how we make the UN an effective organization. Take all of the United States' military bases, which is roughly 800 across the globe. Boy, it sounds like we love peace, doesn't it? And we take and give them to, or rather, guess opposite of annex, really opposite annex them to the countries they're in, so that whatever nation these bases are actually in that isn't ours, they will have full control over those bases, those resources, those personnel, all with the understanding that it's all meant to be that nation in question, whichever nation it is, that nation's contribution to a UN peacekeeping group, because the UN doesn't have a standing army by itself, right? And it really doesn't. And that's kind of an issue when it comes to like needing to enforce some things if some countries have completely gone off the deep end, as we've seen. So doing that, there's so many people who have had entire lives there. I've worked with veterans who lived in other countries for 20 and 30 years, got married, had a kid, they were all like learned the German that they were in, or whatever country their base is in, so all of these U.S. military personnel would have the option under this plan to either like pack it all up and come home, which I think if you've been there for, 10 years or more at that kind of deployment, that kind of permanent area, you probably don't want to do, or you simply join you simply transition from being a part of our military to being a part of, the UN military's peace force through the military authority of the nation you're in instead, But it would only take one order and one president to do that, to immediately disassemble everything we have because of the commander-in-chief status. That's it. We could end this war machine tomorrow if somebody had the guts to do it and were in the position of power to do it. It's not that complicated. And then it spreads out so much of the military might that the United States has built over the last century at least. And that makes things a lot more even, doesn't it? There's no longer just one big superpower, fighting any other potential superpower. That's what we should do with the UN, because then it would actually be effective. And it would be an organization that would actually be able to get things done. They signed the Universal Declaration of Human Rights back in the mid-90s, and no nation has ever enforced that as law in their nation. Why not? What was the point of signing that document then? It's a good document. You should all read it. It could probably stand to use a little bit of updating today after another 30 years or so, but it's not a bad base to start from. My name's Ben Howerson. Sursum Corda.